So after the Crimson Tide absolutely demolished Kentucky this weekend, Alabama fans everywhere were treated to one of the least surprising headlines in all of college football. And that's that Alabama and Nick Saban had gotten the commitment from not only one of the most gifted players in all of high school football in the class of 2025, but that they had gotten the commitment from the number one edge in the nation, Zion Grady, today. We need to break this down. We need to talk about why this is such a big win, what this means for Alabama recruiting, and why, if you're a fan of the Tide, you need to be excited. But before we can, as always, y'all know the drill, I have got to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes and N for no. 2 questions today. First and foremost, are you excited about Zion Grady? And secondly, do you believe the class of 2025 could be a special one for Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide? I can't wait to hear from you. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification. We do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it, and I'd love to have you a part of this unbelievable community. And if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and comment down below. Those interactions seem real small. They're massive for content creators such as myself. But with all that being said, let's dive straight into this. First and foremost, who is Zion Grady? Well, Zion Grady is one of the most gifted players in all of high school football in the class of 2025. As I alluded to in the intro, not only is he the number one edge in the nation, he is a top 20 player in all of high school football, coming in per the 24/7 Sports Composite as the number 19 player in the nation, the number 1 edge in the nation, and the number 4 player in the state of Alabama. And if you're a Crimson Tide fan, that's got to be music to your ears, that the state of Alabama is once again that talent rich in the class of 2025. And luckily for Alabama, you've already done a good job in capitalizing on it and getting some major wins, such as Ryan Williams, one of the most gifted players in all of high school football who's currently committed to the Crimson Tide. But Zion Grady is a welcome addition. If we look, Alabama currently has the number 1 recruiting class in the class of 2025, and there's a long ways to go. Historically, we know Alabama takes their time in recruiting and then really ramps up. But the class of 2025 is a little bit interesting in that kids are wanting to go ahead and commit to Alabama and get the ball rolling on this class. And if you are an Alabama fan, that has got to be music to your ears. Because one of the things we've talked about a lot here on the channel is that having guys like Nick Saban, having guys that are elite recruiters that Nick Saban fills his staff with, such as a Holloman Wiggins, such as a Freddie Roach, that's unbelievable. That's necessary. But one of the biggest things that can happen for a recruiting staff is if they assemble a class and the guys within that class take it upon themselves to start recruiting others. Because it's much easier to hear information from your peers. It's one of the reasons why whenever you're in college, you're tutored by other students most of the time, because it's easier to get that information and to digest that information from one of your peers as opposed to an adult. Now, that's not to diminish the effect Nick Saban, Freddie Roach, Holloman Wiggins have on the trail. Certainly not. They are world class at their job for a reason. But it's simply to paint the picture that if you can get a guy like a Julian Sayin currently is doing for Alabama, like a Ryan Williams is currently doing for Alabama, where every time they're on visits, they're bigging the Tide up. They're trying to talk to all the guys that are around them saying, hey, you need to come check out Alabama. We're building something over here. It's already built, but we're about to take it to another level. That just hits a little bit different. And that's why I think the class of 2025 is one we really need to watch. Richard Young was phenomenal at this whenever he committed to Alabama in last year's class. He chipped away at so many guys. And I'm not saying that he was the sole reason that Alabama got some big wins, but I will say this. There is no universe where Richard Young recruiting some of his peers hurt the Crimson Tide. He was excited to try and get more talented players added into that recruiting class, and it had to have helped. You love to see it. But focusing back on Zion Grady, this is an absolutely massive win for the Crimson Tide as he stands around 6'4", 220 pounds for 24/7 Sports. And one of the things I stated in the intro is that if you were an Alabama fan, this had to be one of the least surprising headlines in the nation. And I'm not simply talking about Alabama getting a win for a recruit, nor am I talking about Alabama getting a win for a 5-star. Those are two things that tend to happen. Alabama gets their fair share of 5 stars. Alabama gets their massive share of recruiting wins. What isn't surprising is that Alabama once again stacks the number one edge in the nation, because this is something that the Crimson Tide have been doing on repeat, and I don't think people are talking about it at the degree they should. Now, that being said, here at Around the Table Sports, anytime I'd get the opportunity to point this out to people, I take it, because I don't think people realize how much talent Alabama has stacked at that edge position. Let's just take a quick look at it real fast. If we go back and look at who the current edges are right now, you're talking Dallas Turner, Chris Braswell, 2 5-star guys. If we look at Chris Braswell's class, he was the third 5-star edge that Alabama took in that class. Will Anderson was the number 1 edge in the nation. Drew Sanders was rated as an athlete, but he was being viewed as an edge per Alabama's staff. And then you had Chris Braswell. 3 5-star edges. What does Alabama do the very next class? Well, they load up in some blue chip 4-star edges, some guys who are this close to 5-star status, and they get Dallas Turner. We take it a step further. Last class, they got the number 2 player in the nation, Keon Keeley, the number 1 edge in the nation. 5-star Yanze Pierre, also on that edge. Then you look Sterling Dixon in the class of 2024. Now you fast forward to the class of 2025. You have Zion Grady. You have Quay Russaw in there, who is a 5-star guy. Alabama has done freaky work stacking talent at the edge. Jeremiah Alexander, 5-star guy that Alabama has at that edge. Now, some of those guys, Alabama will move around. The Crimson Tide have an uncanny ability to get guys with supreme versatility. Jahad Campbell is a fantastic example of this. He is someone that Alabama recruited as an edge and has since transitioned to inside linebacker, and dare I say, looks like one of the best inside linebackers in all of college football. He is surging right now. You wait until he gets a full year under his belt. What he's going to do the rest of this year is going to be impressive. But ladies and gentlemen, what Jahad Campbell does next year is going to be insane. He's that gifted. So Alabama gets a massive win on the recruiting trail, and they get a massive win on the gridiron, beating down Kentucky. And every game for Alabama is a single-game elimination at this point, and the team realizes this. And I think that's part of the reason why we're seeing such a surge from the Crimson Tide, is the realization that their backs are against the wall. And they always say, do not corner a scared dog, because they have nowhere to go but through you. And right now, Alabama looks all too happy to continue going right through their opponents, whether that's in recruiting where they're stacking massive wins or on the gridiron where they're stacking massive wins. Nick Saban is sending the message to everybody that the Tide does not plan on going anywhere, and in fact, they're building and building quickly. Hop down to the comments. Let me know what you're thinking. This is a fantastic win for Alabama, stacking in a 5-star guy, which, by the way, in the class of 2025, this will be the third individual that Alabama has committed that ranks as a top 20 player in the nation. That is wild. Something we're going to have to keep our eye on. Hop down to the comments. Let me know what you're thinking, not only about Alabama's on-field performance this weekend, but also let me know what you think about this huge win. That's it. See you.